Hey guys, this video is all about the sonnet, which is a specific style or type of a poem. A sonnet is a poem that has 14 lines and it follows a specific formal rhyme scheme. We'll take a look at what makes a sonnet a sonnet. I'll also have another video that is analyzing one of William Shakespeare's sonnets, a famous one, sonnet number 18. We'll get there in a little bit. The word sonnet itself comes from the Italian language. It derives from the word sonetto, which means little sound or song. And you'll see that sonnets have a pretty lyrical and sing-song type of a style, so it's appropriate. There are two types of sonnets. There are the Italian sonnets and also the Shakespearean sonnets. Shakespeare basically borrowed the idea of the sonnet from a man named Francesco Petrarch. You can look at these slides. I'll share them with you if you want to learn more about Petrarch and a Petrarchan sonnet. But we are just focusing today on a Shakespearean sonnet, so I'm going to skip ahead a few slides. So here are basically the rules of a Shakespearean sonnet, or this is the form. Shakespeare sonnets have 14 lines. All right, so there are 14 lines. Every line has a syllable count of 10. And a syllable is quite simply just the number of beats, verbal or audible beats basically in a word. So for example, the word syllable, syllable, it has 1, 2, 3 syllables. So in Shakespeare's sonnet, every line has 10 syllables. Moving on, there are 3 4-line stanzas in his sonnets. These are called quatrains. If you know the word quad or the Spanish word cuatro, they mean 4. Quite simply, a quatrain is basically just a stanza that has 4 lines. So I think that's an easy word to remember if you think of the root, quattro, quad, dealing with 4. Line 9 of every sonnet is called a volta. It's basically the turning point or has a transition. We'll look at that more later. If you look earlier, okay, it's 14 lines. Every stanza has 14 lines. There are 3 quatrains. Well, if you multiply 3 quatrains by 4, because a quatrain is 4 lines, that's 12 lines. It leaves 2 more. So go to the bottom here. The sonnet ends with a 2-line rhyming unit called a couplet. So the final 2 lines, lines 13 and 14 of a sonnet, are called the couplet. Easy to remember because a couple means 2. If you order a couple of eggs, it's 2 eggs. If there is a couple, it's 2 people. A couplet is 2 lines. They rhyme. And the rhyme scheme, we'll talk about that more later, but the rhyme scheme of a Shakespearean sonnet is AB, AB, CD, CD, EF, EF, GG. If you have no idea what that means, basically when we talk about poetry and when we talk about rhyme scheme, we use alphabetical letters to indicate the way that lines rhyme with each other. So I'll show you on the next slide how this works out. So this is a sonnet, William Shakespeare sonnet 18, and that's the whole poem right there. And you can see on the right hand side in parentheses I marked letters, and those letters indicate rhyme. If you look at the first line, shall I compare thee to a summer's day, and then we skip to line 3, which ends in the word may. Day and may rhyme, so that's why we indicate this with the letters A. And if you look at line 2 and line 4, you've temperate and date, which when people 400, 500 years ago were reading this, they might say temperate and date to make it rhyme. Well, that's why we have the B indicating that those 2 lines rhyme. So if you look at this entire poem, just breaking it down structurally, all right, we can count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14 lines. The first quatrain is, the first 4 lines. Lines 5 through 8 are the second quatrain. Lines 9 through 12 would be the third quatrain. And lines 13 and 14, that's the couplet. You can see the last 2 lines end with the word see and the, two lines in a row that rhyme, and that makes it a couplet. So that's basically the structure of a sonnet. Typically, sonnets will have a turn, or they sort of change direction about midway through, and that's line 9. And we'll look at that when we analyze this sonnet that we're looking at here. But that's basically what a sonnet is. It's a 14-line poem. We've got that specific rhyme scheme that you can see on the right hand side, and you've got a couplet at the end, and every line here has 10 syllables if you were to count it out. So that is a sonnet.